Warm greetings, everyone. On behalf of W4W Foundation, a think tank instituted as Citizens Collective, we welcome you to another session of Wednesdays for Water. The conversation today is on water and metropolitanization, the case of Hyderabad. The objective of Wednesdays for Water is to engage in conversation with water experts, grassroots practitioners, policymakers, and youth to explore the complex intertwined issues associated with water and the possible solutions the water workers are working on. The Wednesdays for Water has expanded since then to have more activities like Friday Waters and Monday Munching with Women for Water, with special on-site sessions also on seminars, special courses, conference panels to continue the water conversation in various possible ways. Do check our website, www.W4W.in for more details. Today, we are also having this series as part of the education series where we have already conducted over 10 sessions on water education in various ways. The session is co-hosted by Terry School of Advanced Studies in New Delhi. My name is Mansee Bal Bhargava and I'm the host for today from W4W and also visiting faculty at Terry School of Advanced Studies. In today's session on water and metropolitanization, the case of Hyderabad, we have power-packed line of speakers and discussants. We have with us Florence Bunuj and Reena Mahajan as our speakers, and also they were mentors of the workshop, which they are going to talk about more. Then we have Sebastian Miguel and Maria Tula Mendez as our discussants from Argentina and Spain, respectively, as workshop participants, and then Sashank IVS as a discussant further from Hyderabad as part of workshop coordinating team. Before I invite our speakers to make their presentations, a very quick biography of each before their presentations. I'll invite Florence to first make her presentation, and before that, just a brief introduction of hers. Florence is an architect and urban planner with a sensitivity to resource, water, and energy, and she does bioclimatic architecture, which marks her careers and projects across France as well as other countries of the world. And she has been associated with Les Ateliers de Cargie, which she's going to talk about more, out of which this workshop and product came out where we all were part of the game. She has joined the Les Ateliers since in 2009. She's convinced of the needs for an interscalar approach to project management and has led several projects across France, China, Brazil, and India, just to name a few. Her adventure with Ateliers has enabled her to challenge her professional experience and enhance the collective intelligence of working towards the built environment. I'll keep it short here and invite Florence to make her presentation. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this presentation, and also all of us seeing you all. It's like a family reunion for all. Over to you, Florence. Please unmute yourself, Florence.
Hello, everybody. I will just speak a little bit about the organization of Les Ateliers. It's a French non-profit organization for 40 years, created 40 years ago. Oops, it doesn't. Okay. We organized for 1982 more than 100 workshops in all over the world, in France and all over the world. Two types of workshops, some student workshops in France and professional workshops in the world. So we have a pluridisciplinary network of more than 3,000 professionals, elected representatives, researchers, and students. The network and the process of a workshop is to put on a dynamic system and to make people work together, and it's really a collective and dynamic processes. It's a tool for territory development. It's a neutral platform for dialogue and innovation for the local actors. It's we make some illustrated strategic proposals based on a collective approach without commercial aim. Everybody is works works together and without be paid. So the workshops and the organization, it's a set of international and national experts from various disciplines: economy, environment, urban planning, architecture, landscape, and in accordance with the workshop's topic. It's a platform for dialogue and debate. It makes each time an international event to share the findings and the lessons of the workshop. And we try to put on strategic and actionable ideas, illustrated and substantiated. It makes a really long process because each workshop needs about 3 years to go on, to prepare it. So the first meeting to meet people, to meet the local actors, and to understand the problematics, and then more and more we find people, we make exploration, and then we make the workshop with all the professional experts for 2 weeks. So during the preparation, we have exchange roundtables with various partners. Rena will tell about that. Conducted by the local authority. We have collective visits and conference. We work in teams. And then we have presentations and debates between participants and local actors at several steps during the workshop. We make some illustrated proposals on several scales. We really need to work on all the scales, from the global to the local, and it's really important to have this multi-scholar approach. Altogether, during the workshop, we make 4 main documents, and to work and to make all people well understanding the topics, and to make everybody understanding the purpose and the goals of the workshop. So we have the topic document written by the pilots. It points out the major issues and is released as international call for applications. We have the context document. So for the topic document, we were Rena and myself for the topic document. And then we have been joined by Sashank and Raoul, and they prepared the context document, helped by the partners. So the context document is a really big document, relies on the research work conducted over several months. Sashank will speak about that. Then we make the session book. It's a major document of the workshop, bringing together the team productions, so 3 teams on the workshops. And then we make the synthesis document. So it's written by the pilots, so by Rena and myself, and we will work about that. Final presentations are an international event. There are many people. There are the 3 teams. There are all the local partners. There are experts from all over the world who join the event for the jury. And the jury gathers all main national and local actors, as well as international partners and organizations, and local, national, and international experts. The jury members debate, emphasize the best ideas, and start thinking of the implementation of the proposals of the teams. So we have two formats for the workshops: the expert format for experienced professionals all over the world, and we have the junior format, young professionals and students, which is held in France, near Paris. And we will speak just at the end a little bit about that, because there is an appliance until the 15th of June. And if there is any young professional or students who listen this meeting, they are welcome to apply. So we led many international workshops around the water, around many subjects, but also many around the water, because water is really a main point of the development of the urbanization, and it's a resource, really vulnerable resource. And so we had an international workshop in Mayotte to create a desirable future for Mayotte in 2023. It was 12 days expert workshops with 15 participants, a little bit like the one in Hyderabad in the format. And some proposals from this workshop were use mobility as an entry point for territorial rebalancing, enhance bonds, tangible and intangible heritage in construction, and consider territories holistically. We have this one in Hyderabad, so two weeks with experts from all over the world. It was in 2024 with Rena and myself as pilots, and partners were Telangana government, the French Agency Development, French Embassy, and Monsieur Riverfront Company Development. Rena will speak about the topic and outcome, so I go through. This is a synthesis map, but Rena will speak about that too. And last slide to show you the next workshop. So it's a junior format workshop. So it will be held at Cergy-Pontoise near Paris. And it's about the water also, because it's a river Seine as a great garden, ecology and habitability of the Seine and its tributaries. So this one will be the 43rd Paris Region International Urban Planning Workshop. So it means that it's a long, it's an old organization, but still really new about the process, and about the ideas, and about the tools. And there is an international call for application until June, the 15th of June. So it's at the end of the week. So if any student or young professional is interested, please just go to apply. So it will be all along the river basin. So in 3 years, so this year it's about the upstream. So you can see the area, and next year it will be around Paris itself, and the third year it will be about the downstream near Rouen, Le Havre, and then the sea. So you can go for information on the site here. It's seine@atelier.org, and you can apply for until 5th of June. So here you have the contacts. The director of the atelier, it's a permanent team. It's Veronique Valenzuela. The director of projects is Simon Brochard. And then there is a general contact, contactatelier.org. So I will stop my sharing and I will be ready if there is any question, but we will follow on the subject really.
Thank you so much, Florence Gunuj. Now, we will take the conversation later, and I also welcome all the YouTube viewers to please also write your questions and comments, and I can access and transfer them to our speakers here. Let us move on to now Reena Mahajan, who is an architect, urban planner, and passionate advocate for transforming car-centric sprawl into people-centered, nature-positive cities. With nearly 2 decades of experience in sustainable urban design, Reena has founded Studio Diversity to integrate water-sensitive design, sustainable mobility, and gender-responsive planning into powerful holistic solutions. Reena champions walkable and bike-friendly cities that support freedom of movement, health, and safety for everyone. And she has launched the Montevideo Pacificada campaign using design, visual advocacy, and public forums to push for policy change. Now, turning to entrepreneurship, she is developing a digital platform to transform how streets are assessed and redesigned, combining data, design, and dialogue. And the platform is both a planning tool as well as an instrument for advocacy and co-creation to empower everyday people to take part in shaping more livable, climate-resilient urban spaces. Based out of Paris, Reena is currently leveraging her role also as a climate-based fellow to drive the shift towards cities that prioritize both people and planet. And in the workshop which we attended, Reena was also co-pilot with Florence. Reena, thank you so much for agreeing to share your insights and experience. And over to you. Thank you.
Thank you for the invitation, Mansee, and thank you, Florence, for kind of setting the stage and explaining about Les Ateliers. So really nice to be here. Nice to see also some participants who are here and who will be talking after this. Yeah, let me jump straight in. Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here and listening. Let me share my screen. And oops. Okay. So I'm going to take you through the Hyderabad workshop, how it was structured, what we explored, how we reframed what was a riverfront project into a citywide kind of ecosystems approach, and then what came out of it. So like Florence said, Florence and I were the pilots, and we had 15 participants with us, and it was like a 15 day journey, which actually extended both ways before and after. So let's start with Hyderabad itself, because perhaps not everyone, I mean, most of our audience is in India, right, Mansee? So everybody's, I would guess, very familiar with Hyderabad. Ah, you're mute. Okay, never mind.
Oh, sorry.
So
Sorry, I was on mute. So I didn't check where are people from, but you may
okay,
please
no
give
worries.
me.
I'll give a short introduction. So Hyderabad, actually, not everybody would know this. It's actually one of the fastest growing megacities in the world. This in people in India know. They know that its population has really doubled in the past 25 years. It's now a major hub for both pharmaceutics, but also IT. But what is less known is that this city was historically built on bioclimatic principles. Hyderabad is actually lies in the heart of the semi-arid Deccan Plateau, with very low rainfall and no perennial rivers. And despite that, it really thrived thanks to an extraordinary water harvesting system, a sort of cascading network of lakes, tanks, nalas, step wells. Nalas are stormwater drainage channels, just in case there's somebody from outside of India. And all of this draining into the Musi River, which flows through the center of the city. And this is what made the city livable. But unfortunately, today, this legacy is under threat, and over 3,000 water bodies have either vanished or are shrinking with every passing day. And the Musi River so this is essentially how you lose not only the lakes and the water bodies, but they just shrink and they become volumes of water rather than vast littoral zones as they used to be. And the Musi River today is one of the most polluted rivers in the world. And the city is expanding. Hyderabad is expanding rapidly with really no geographical limit because it's the heart of the country on a plateau, and water has to be pumped from faraway rivers. So the challenge today, we would say, is no longer growth but resilience. And so the premise of the workshop, so let's just go to the premise of the workshop. The government of Telangana, which is the region where Hyderabad is located, with support from the French Development Agency and the French Embassy in India, approached Les Ateliers with a brief that was totally anchored in the Musi Riverfront Development Project, which is their big development project in these current years. But we, as the workshop team, quickly reframed this issue. Why? Because it's not just a question of a 55-kilometer river corridor. The Musi is, as is any other river for that matter, is part of an entire urban ecosystem of reservoirs, floodplains, nalas, lakes, step wells, and even um, sewage treatment plants. And so the right scope for us was much more than the riverfront. And so we renamed the project from Musi Riverfront Regeneration Development Project to Musi River Ecosystem Regeneration Project. And our process essentially, now let me come to the process. So we hosted this workshop with 15 local international experts over 2 weeks, as I said. But in the months prior to the actual workshop, which was held in December, in the 3 months prior to this, we held 3 different roundtables, kind of leading up to the workshop, which allowed enough time for the participants to really get deep into the subject matter. So we invited local international experts. We spoke about river regeneration, sponge cities, community water governance. And then once we were on the site, we organized 3 intense days of fieldwork to visit the city to really have an immersive experience. And the workshop was, this is very important to understand, that it's not about like the workshop, we were not interested in making a master plan. The workshop was intentionally multi-scalar. So even when we had a few focus areas. Even when we were zooming into a single lake or a single neighborhood, we always asked the question, so what's upstream? What's downstream? What system is this a part of? And we always kept in mind both the local scale and the metropolitan scale constantly. And then these are some photos of the team ideation. This ideation was also supported by exchanges with the local officials, with experts, residents. And this is a photo of the exchange forum, which we held at the mid-mark of the workshop. So let's look at some of the thematic questions that kind of helped us structure the dialogue. So at the core of the workshop, we had like a set of questions. So let me just go through some of the questions that we had, that Florence and I um, um, prepared much prior to the workshop, and this is what, as Florence said, this was part of the topic document that the participants had access to before they came for the workshop. So, for example, how do we reconnect infrastructure with culture? How do we make sure that every drop of water is functional but also meaningful? How do we institutionalize nature-based solutions in urban planning beyond pilot projects? How do we connect arterial networks with shaded neighborhood streets that are a real asset to the city as of now? How do we make the city more attractive, not just for the new talent that we want to bring in, but also for the people who are already living there? And how can community engagement actually shape water governance and scale? So we looked at Hyderabad through 3 different lenses. First, you have the natural Hyderabad's water system. Sorry, through 3 different lenses. So first, you have the natural systems, which are the lakes, wetlands, aquifers, the groundwater as well. All of this is under strain. Second, the built systems, which are the tanks, the nalas, the STPs, the step wells. All of this is incredible legacy of water infrastructure, some still working and some, of course, forgotten and also under strain. And then you have the third layer, which is very interesting, which is the invisible. So this is where you have the whole cultural side. So water bodies, which used to be shared spaces where people used to gather, farm, play, celebrate. And so the idea now is to bring these communities back to these places, even if their role would look very different today. And then the final layer is the digital layer. And this is where Hyderabad has a real edge, because today we have sensors, satellite data, so much potential with the apps that we can have. And all of these tools we can use to track water, including the groundwater. So the tech is there. So let's use it for more than traffic updates. We can actually use it to care for our ecosystem. So this was the idea. And let's take a look at the three teams. So each team had a distinct but complementary lens. So we had the team Aquapolis. They imagined Hyderabad as a city of water, climate resilient, biodiversity rich, and decentralized. In fact, Mansee was part of this team, and we have Sebastian also, who's gonna talk about it a little bit later. Then we had the team, the Water Speaks, and we have Maria here from this team. They took on an ecology first approach, so connecting public health, mobility, and ecosystems. And then we had the team Guardians for 7 generations of Musi. And they looked long term, so they were all for blending the cultural and memory with sort of regenerative practice, and ensuring that what we give to the future generations is something that they don't blame us in the future, and that we consider 7 generations at least. Some of the transversal themes. No, so let me just make it very clear that in case it's not, that these three teams, so they were not in competition. It was very much a collaborative process. There was no competition, even though they were working separately in teams. The idea was to get a lot of ideas. We all kind of wanted the same thing, the same goal, but through different, maybe different processes. And it was just richer because we had three different teams. Some of the themes that emerged, that were kind of common across all themes, were these 5 themes. So ecology before economy. People, they value quality of life. Decentralized action. Neighborhoods, they need tools, but they also need authority to act and be part of the change. Water's identity. People, they feel pride, loss, connection through water. Another theme was shared governance, or co-ownership. And finally, the theme of mobility and porosity. So when you treat water and movement together, you really get something powerful. You get walkable, green, connected spaces, and these are good for both people and the planet. So now let's look at some details about the proposals and our strategic evaluation. Florence and I. I'm going to go through this very quickly because we obviously won't have time to get into the topics, but just so you get an idea about the kind of proposals that were made. So one team in particular wanted to reclaim Hyderabad's identity as the city of lakes. So this means reconnecting the lakes, rivers, aquifers into a living network, a system that supports biodiversity, that regulates temperature, that supports daily life. And this means water not just as infrastructure, but also as identity. Um, uh, and so Aquapolis, it was actually one of the teams, but in the end we kind of took this theme to rename Hyderabad. And one team, for example, proposed a water ripple app, which is a kind of community driven tool to monitor water quality in real time, to be able to report issues and build public awareness through simple and accessible data. They also proposed that we should listen to people and measure. We should collect local data on the water access, quality, and needs. Let people define what matters to them. Another idea that was suggested was a simple but very powerful kind of timeline for water restoration. So if you look at it like smell, swim, drink, these are ways to kind of track the progress in stages that everybody can understand. When is the water going to be good enough to smell, that it won't have a smell? When will the water be good enough that we can swim in this water? And when will we be able to drink it? So suddenly it's really immediate and everybody feels connected with the cause, and you can track the progress. And then for governance, one of the teams proposed what they called the House of Common Waters, which was a kind of local hub where communities could gather, learn, and really take shared responsibility for the stewardship of their water bodies. Also, they proposed restoring Hyderabad's ecological corridors and really tying them to a walkable and connected city. So, how did we go from ideas to action? So, once the workshop was over and after the discussions during the jury, Florence and I looked at all the ideas that the teams had produced and kind of made them into a compact, actionable sort of action plan to gift to the city of Hyderabad, to the state of Telangana, as a conclusion and a practical, actionable conclusion to the workshop. So we proposed a clear roadmap with key milestones to guide the implementation at every level. So this starts with a 60-day action plan in which you have workshops, community surveys, and events, so people get involved right away. And then we had the midterm planning, and then we suggested like a public launch. So launch Hyderabad as an aquapolis, brand it, have a sort of storytelling, make sure that the people see the shift in how the city and other people they see itself. So let's just go over quickly with 10 points. So the first was to start with the events that I mentioned. So after the launch day, you would have weekly waste cleanups, workshops. You could have events like a marathon along the Musi. So event planning. Second, to set up the houses of common waters, which, mind you, are not just offices. They really act as neighborhood anchors, where people would come together and really feel connected. And for these houses of common waters, third point is to appoint stewards, to appoint people who can manage these houses of common waters. And these could be one local person and maybe one international person who would be temporary or like on a rotating basis. Fourth point is to be able to map the walkable routes for restoration, and why not restore those lakes that are not very degraded so that we can immediately start having some walking routes for the city. Fifth, to create interpretation centers, take some forgotten sites and really turn them into spaces of learning, spaces of connection, maybe sewage treatment plants. They could become a public attraction. Sixth point is to use digital tools like the one that I mentioned, that one of the teams suggested. Seventh, to write it all down in technical manuals that can be used by people. Eighth, to organize hands-on workshops. Ninth, to think long term. So map every single lake and nala, even the ones that have disappeared, define the buffer zones, make sure that the blue and green infrastructure, which are the ecological corridors, are mapped on the master plans, that we don't forget them, that they are mapped and they are there on paper. And 10th, to put some regulations in place. So what happened after the workshop? So soon after the workshop, the government of Telangana actually issued a government order in which they said that 50 meters, they kind of appointed 50 meters no construction zones and 100 meters restricted development zones along the Musi. And for us, this seems like a direct adoption of the buffer zone logic that one of the teams had proposed, which you can see on the left. And we would call this a success, and also that the 10 actionable or the action plan with the 10 points is actually something that the state of Telangana is very much has very much adopted, and they were very interested in implementing that, especially the House of Common Waters. So we would consider that a success, at least partially. And the hope and the end goal is that Hyderabad eventually can be called World Health Capital once again, kind of staying true to its bioclimatic legacy. Thank you for listening.
Wow, thank you so much, Reena, for such a comprehensive taking us through comprehensive presentation to tell us what happened and what happened afterwards. And wonderful. Let us quickly move to now one of our co-hosts who was stationed in Hyderabad, helping the pilots and the less ateliers to set this up, taking us through the journey, and then also probably he will share his experience. May I invite now Shashank IVS, who is an architect, historian, educator, and multidisciplinary storyteller. He founded, and very interesting name, by the way, our LOVE, Love Story Works, a creative platform dedicated to storytelling around love, community, folklore, memory, and the earth. Trained as an architect with a master's in architectural history and theory, Shashank has worked across diverse domains from humanitarian architecture and academic research to teaching in architectural institutions, including Seeds India as a partner architect at Studio Hyderabad and as an assistant professor at ADA College Hyderabad. His interest spans climate histories, children experience of cities, cartography, Indian Eastern coastal histories, indigenous deities, and memory studies. May I now invite Shashank to really share your experience of working with the pilots, working with your host institution in Hyderabad, your host institution from France. What was the very idea that came to you when you were invited to work for this project as uh, I suppose you are called junior pilot, if I am not mistaken. Over to you. Thank you so much, Shashank, for taking out time, and its floor is yours.
Yep. Thank you, Mansi, for such kind introduction. Thank you so much for inviting me today here. Uh, so, uh, hello everyone. I'm Sishank, as most of you here know, and I had the pleasure of working as assistant pilot for this workshop alongside Rahul Palagani, who unfortunately couldn't join us today. I was part of Studio Hyderabad along with Rahul, a multidisciplinary design and research firm. And while we were working a lot in contextualizing our work in Hyderabad, we have always been deeply curious about Hyderabad's historical relationship with water, how it shaped, nourished, and even defined the city across time and made the city as we are living today, experiencing it every day as locals as we are doing now. But one of the most fascinating moments in our research that was especially stumbling upon this particular detail, uh, water once traveled through subterranean terracotta aqueducts from Durgam Cheruvu to the Qutub Shahi tombs and eventually to the lakes around the Nayakila fortification, which is the Golconda, an extension of the Golconda fort. When we got to know about these stories, and this specially is recorded as part of the siege of the Golconda fort by Aurangzeb. So that particular episode. So it's these layered and often invisible water histories that inspired us to be part of this journey. So like like when this opportunity came up to work with lesser layers and participants from around the world, on especially on a theme as compelling as water and metropolitanization, it truly felt like a dream assignment, everything. Um, we both were assistant pilots. I mean that the title itself sort of is self-explanatory in terms of what we were exactly doing, especially assisting Rina and Florence. But as to put it in the larger context of things, our primary role as we are talking about water today, I think metaphorically we were largely acting as bridges between, let's say, one less team and local authorities, helping with permissions, data access, and even figuring out workshop logistics, etc., to the participants and the pilots, while co-authoring and grounding the context for the city, and the context, preparing context document and other research material. And most importantly, while during the workshop, the local communities and the international participants helping especially transcend barriers such as language, access, and experience as such. So this was our primary role, to act as bridges and everything. But to talk about one of our major involved tasks was working on the context document, a comprehensive 100-page dossier that provided the foundation for the entire workshop. I mean, especially under the guidance of Rina and Florence, especially. This document attempted to sort of distill the complexity of Hyderabad's waterscape into a sort of a navigable format. It included, let's say, a historical narrative of Hyderabad's water from Golconda to Qutub Shahis, from Nizams to post-independence expansion, and now to the IT era metropolis. Mapping the interconnected water heritage like rivers, lakes, temples, nalas, and the often overlooked sewage and stormwater networks, as Rina was showing in her presentation just a while ago. Understanding water governance, who manages what across administrative boundaries, and that itself is a very complex network that we had to decipher ourselves, being the locals. And finally, laying out emerging challenges and examining the Musi Riverfront Development Project within this broader landscape. So that was a larger role. The process was intense. I mean, we dove into archival research largely, dug through century-old maps, conducted oral interviews, worked with institutions like NIUM, Institute of Urban Management, and MRDCL, Musi Riverfront Development Corporation Limited, who generously supported us with access to invaluable data. Visualizing complex information was a major challenge. I mean, especially for the first-time visitors to Hyderabad, because we had to provide all this information and data to the 15 international participants who are going to be there for 2 weeks. So for them to comprehend the data, understand the city terrain and everything, itself is a challenge that we had taken up. So we had to reconstruct and redraw maps, often from scratch, to make the terrain more comprehensible for the international teams. Field visits, of course, brought their own realities, navigating settlements, dealing with a lot of uh, local issues, negotiating access, and sometimes just listening deeply even. But yeah, but what's been most fulfilling is seeing how all of that background effort has now taken shape in the form of the work that the participants will be presenting now. The pilots have already beautifully summarized the journey so far, and yeah, I invite you to engage with the proposals not just as solutions, but as reflections of collaboration, complexity, and especially, I think, care. Yeah, thank you, Mansee.
Thank you so much, Shashank. Honestly speaking, your wisdom about the place and the seamless connection you had with host organization in France as well as in Hyderabad completely got probably overlooked by all the participants like us, because you and Rahul were like mom and dad for for all other things apart from the intellectual input that it was implicit in the whole project, because we were reaching out to you, as I said, I mean, literally for all the other reasons, along with the intellectual input that we were seeking from you because of your connectivity. Hats off to you and Rahul. Yes, we are missing Rahul here today, but as I said, and I still have that picture when you and Rahul, the day after the workshop was over, and I saw you. Let me just go quickly to our two team members who will now present, so that we get an idea what was it to have this kind of workshop and what was the whole process they went through. I know we had a lot of cats and dogs situation, because I'm going to invite Sebastian Miguel from our team to make his presentation. Thank you, Sebastian, for taking time out. I know it is early morning in Argentina, and I hope you are really up for it. Over to you, and please present your our group work. Thank you. Thanks for taking this invitation.
Well, thank you, Mansee, for the invitation, and it's a pleasure to come back 7 months later to this place again, to this project, to see how it was our work, and also to see again some colleagues there. So beginning on our proposal, we have an international team from different parts of the world and professionals. Avinash and you, Mansee, from India, Hugo from France, Isabel from Angola, myself from Argentina. And we work with this concept of aquapolis, no? Means water and the city, the growing city. But to begin with this, we began defining what is a water body.
Sorry to interrupt, Seth. May I request you to put it in the slideshow, please? Thank you.
Sorry. Yeah, sure. Okay, so defining what is a water body, we understood that it's a natural flowing clean water body that houses life in terms of flora, fauna, soils, minerals, chemicals, and many others. And Aquapolis, in terms of water infrastructure, is a system of lakes connected by the nalas, as Rina have presented, like strong connectors. But also we understood that we need to consider the river. No, let the river be the river was one of our slogans, and that means that fishes, birds, animals, vegetation, and people, also soil, be in the development agenda with the land economy. So from the other side, city communities adapt to the growing built environment with room for climate resilience. Was those main uh, introductions. So for our approach and proposals, we understood that water conservation and management is a growing challenge despite all the efforts. So our approach has different sustainable aspirations, seeking balance to think of ecology, for instance, not thinking about ecosystem services that should precede developments, urban developments. So we understood that pollution is a huge concern and the management is a huge challenge in terms of sewage, garbage, medical waste. In terms of social approach, we need to change the perception of and the relationship of with water. In terms of gender and generation, women and youth are marginalized from development discourse, and this should be included, those groups. In terms of cultural approach, all activities in connection with water, for instance, from the side of ritualistic to recreational, should be promoted. And in terms of economy, we saw that this a rapid development that is eating water bodies as it has been presented. So the value of the ecosystem is interlinked with the quality of life, and this should be recognized. No, it's not only about money. Everything is about money. It's about moral consideration that also are missing. So during our work at the beginning, we launched this survey where more than 140 people participated online, and we put some questions, no? The positive and negative about water bodies, no? How they see and feel lakes and rivers, and how is how is how, how they think the river should be look like. No? So you can see there in this presentation the positive words that goes to perception of water bodies in their natural pristine form with rich ecosystem, and which is a heritage where they can interact. Those are the main positive words. And in terms of negative words, people are concerned about the ecosystem health of the water bodies, which is impacting in the health of people living around. So we launched also four pictures. So with how the the river should look like, and in first place, people have chosen a low intervention of the river. In second term, a medium intervention. This is in Ahmedabad waterfront. The third one was no intervention, and luckily the fourth picture that was chosen was a strong intervention. Well, a lot of urban interventions are in the sides of the river. So, talking about our proposals, we understood that it's interesting to integrate water system, this idea of aquapolis, river, nalas, wells, and lakes, and to put this into examples, we made two studied cases, one of the Shatteguard Hub and the second, a typical urban lake, to integrate all these ideas. So the idea of sponge city, no, this density with sustainable projects, with residencies for different income communities, and also creation of water treatment parks and infrastructures. No, this is like a a soft interventions around the water bodies in both scales. No? But the main aspects to implement these Aquapolis proposals, no, talking about the sewage systems, for instance, Nalas and the Musel rivers should be the last step of water purification, reducing the pollution after the STPs or collective septic tanks. And to do so, the wastewater management interventions along the Musi and the other water bodies emphasize a combination of natural-based, hybrid, and engineered solutions to ensure this sustainable treatment. Regarding on garbage treatments, we implement the concept of social engineering. That means that citizen participation for solid waste management implement this sewage, the the solid waste management with governance. So citizen is have the feedback and the social security also for informing workers. Also, we propose a transition from manual collection to better equipment, for instance, electric vehicles. Also implement a campaign for separation of recyclable materials and reuse items at home. No, so we encourage people to participate actively in these subjects and improve the triple R networks with cavidawalas for waste recoveries. And in terms of governance, what Rita also presented, we empower community through decentralized decisions, community water management, and recognition water rights. So the idea is to propose and coordinate a regional water policies, fostering the collaboration, transparency, and accountability. And this idea of social engineering means that Hyderabad empowers citizen governments with a real-time water data, no, bringing these blue and green networks through sensors and open data for a sustainable future. So this idea, or these all items and ideas means that we approach to the concept of Aquapolis. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Steph. And my apology that I actually missed introducing you because I was so emotional looking at our sheets that I forgot to introduce you. But nevertheless, I will do it now before I invite Maria to take the floor. And Sebastian was in my group, in our group rather. And we, as we he shared what we did. But before joining the workshop, Sebastian is an architect with a master's degree in architectural design, both from University of Buenos Aires, Argentina. He's also a visual artist working in different formats and scales, drawings, paintings, and installations. He's a researcher and professor in several universities in Argentina with international experience in projects of urban agriculture, social housing, design with environmental contributions. He has experience in restoration of polluted water basins and interventions in informal settlements. And in the last 5 years, he's been working with communities in the north of Argentina to help them develop sustainable infrastructure with low-cost technologies. Thank you so much, Sebastian. And I almost got emotional looking at Hyderabad, the city of lakes. It was great. Let me now move on to our next speaker, and you will again see some wonderful sketches. Before I'm already hinting what is coming up there. And we have now with us Maria Tula G. Mendes, who is an architect and an urban planner. She has experience on multiple projects, including urban strategic planning, sustainable mobility plans, urban regeneration and renaturalization projects and landscapes, and public space design. She has also led communication and illustration projects regarding territorial issues and promoted and facilitated participatory co-design processes for habitat transformation. Throughout her professional journey, she has explored the ways in which hand drawings intertwined within the different stages of project, and it's a beautiful and useful tool for inquiry, ideation, participation, communication, and strategic thinking. She's co-founder of Hydra Studio, an urban consultancy based in Madrid. And over to you, Maria, and thank you so much for taking our time and accepting this invitation.
Hello, thank you so much, Mansee. I will share my screen now. Okay, so one moment. So our team's project was called The Water Speaks. Our team was formed by 5 people as the other teams, 2 people from France, Akil and Leila, me from Spain, and 2 people from India. We had very different profiles, but we realized that we each come from a city which has a river. No? So for example, Madrid has the river Manzanares, Hyderabad, of course, has river Musi, and every city has its reference river. So in fact, this is our title, "A Water Speaks." We really wanted to communicate that water is not a separate thing from us. No, we are made up almost 70% of water. And so we are also bodies of water. And while we were in Hyderabad, for example, some of the water in our bodies had come from the river Musi and some other processes as well, and it would also come back to the river. So we are connected in this network of water bodies of the whole world, but also connected to the rivers in our cities. So this was one of the ideas that we had when starting our work. And also our proposal is made in the face of this dynamic that is going on in Indian cities nowadays, no? due to economic reasons, cities are more and more polluted in the water and in the air, more and more car-centered and congested. There are more and more floods every year, and that is because we don't take care of our air, of our water, and of our natural resources. So people don't want to live in the cities, no? Nobody wants to live in a city where you cannot walk, you cannot breathe, and you cannot have drinkable water. So all these urban challenges, including also lack of public space, disconnection from water bodies, also community disengagement, lack of ground permeability, waste management and waste pollution problems in the management, lack of biodiversity, encroachments, all these urban challenges that are related in many ways to the water ecosystem, our proposal wanted to address them through the water ecosystem, like a strategy through which we could, let's say, turn around all these challenges and promote flood prevention, improved farming through connecting the water bodies, and also the ecological continuity of the water network, improving the permeability, etc. So let's say these urban challenges are all addressed through the water ecosystem of the city. And so our proposal had 3 strategic lines at the scale of the metropolis. So the first, let's say, like 3 layers. The first one was to have clean and connected water bodies. So this is fundamental, no? This is like the basis of the proposal, to reclaim again this connection that used to be there of the different water bodies through the nalas and the channels. And so to reclaim this interconnection of cascading water bodies towards the river Musi through, we will see it right after, through the connection recuperation, but also domestic wastewater treatment and STP plants, using nature-based solutions, and, and centering, as Rina was mentioning before, in the buffer zone recuperation. This is like a very important point in our proposal. The second layer or the second strategic line would be the green and blue corridors, because once we have these connected water bodies, we can promote an interconnected network of green and public spaces along them. And also this soil permeability for flood prevention and even urban agriculture around them. So these ecological corridors for biodiversity, for mobility, for ecological connection are clearly, there is a huge opportunity in this network of blue spaces that can also be green. And for the third strategic line, we were thinking about active mobility and quality public space. So we proposed that along River Musi, which in our proposal also is like the backbone of the whole project. We proposed some bicycle network along the river, also a new underground subway line, because we realized that in fact in Hyderabad, which is greatly congested traffic-wise, there is this east-west connection that is lacking, and they were planning to do it along the River Musi. So according to us, River Musi should be preserved as a green ecological corridor and pedestrian space and not used as a highway free space. So we proposed like an alternative east-west connection, and we proposed a new tramway line along the Musi River in what we call the heritage area, which is the center area here in the center of Hyderabad. So the fourth strategic line would be community participation, which would like wrap all of them to make them possible and inclusive, no, of all people. So our project is focusing on this whole system of lakes and tanks, nalas and canals, and rivers. So we have water bodies, we have connections, and we have finally the river. So what we did was we focused on one of each to do like a prototype of a solution that we could think that could be scalable, even if the scales and of course, the urban situations are very different. So for example, for water bodies, we focused on Miralam Tank, which is a big tank in the south of River Musi. And we studied all the challenges and urban opportunities. We also did a mobility scheme to preserve this area around the tank, and also making very central this idea of the buffers around the water body, of the nature-based solutions, and of the pedestrian connection around the water bodies, as well as here in this case, we proposed, as Rina mentioned, what we call the House of Common Waters, which would be like a structure for community participation to lead some actions and some tactical urbanism actions, for example, and participatory co-design processes around this water transformation for the city of Hyderabad. So in the water bodies, we focused on Miralam Tank, but of course, this proposal should be scaled to all the other water bodies in the city. The second category would be the water connections or nalas, and here we were proposing to, as I said, to convert them into green corridors, to give this green and pedestrian continuity in which I could, for example, walk along the nalas until River Musi by foot and without risking my life because of the cars. So, and this, there is the problem with this is there is a lack of space, So we propose this solution in which people could leave space along the nalas, but would gain this edificability elsewhere in this same neighborhood or a little bit farther away. So the premise was to succeed in getting these green corridors that are not very wide, but are enough for pedestrian mobility and for this green network of connected spaces along water spaces. And the third one was along River Musi. We centered, as Rina was saying, in the river, which for us is the backbone of the whole proposal, because the important thing is that all the clean, or the water that will be in the future clean, and all the pedestrians will flow into the Musi River. And we propose that it should be a green infrastructure with a buffer zone, which is not only 50 meters, but 200 meters with a public quality, with a cultural, with cultural amenities, recreational spaces, sustainable mobility like a tramway and bicycle lane, and like being it, like we have the opportunity to make this a public green space for the city, which is very need of, in our opinion. And so this was like our third example of how could the river be changed or be intervened. And so that would be it. And I
Thank
leave.
you. Thank you so much, Maria. And I think I'll open the floor with a very simple question, because this is a pedagogical discussion we are having today as part of education series. And we are having very good representation already from 4 countries. So it's a good idea to really go a little bit into the idea of water education. And I will start with Shashank only, because to bring it a full cycle of education in India about water. Shashank, you know that in architecture planning, we don't have any subject or course on water. And that is also my cry for last 30 years. And I have dedicated my life on water education. I want to ask you, when we have these kind of workshops, which are more professionally driven, and of course, the outcomes are very much at a different level rather than teaching at schools and colleges where we have studios. I would still like to understand from you, because there's a pile of intellect that goes into the drains from studio projects where we have been doing these kind of projects across the country. And there are no takers, no listeners, and literally even students and teachers get demotivated about this kind of water education. What is your take on really doing this kind of work with professionals, vis-a-vis you're also teaching at schools? How do you think we can really bring this kind of, not this level probably, but the pedagogy that Florence and Rina explained, can we really take it up to classrooms in our masters and undergraduate courses? What's your take on it, Shashank?
Sure. So having taught in undergraduate courses, especially in Indian setting, multiple spaces, one key difference that I observed, for example, is that water, as you were mentioning, was never the central aspect of the proposal of design studios or something. For example, while I was at CEPT, there were definitely few undergrad studios that were proposed at the thematics of water. I mean, let's say they picked up a community which is on the river, on a riverside. So there is a very holistic understanding and approach towards how the relationships of water with the neighborhood communities, and then there's a study that goes into it, and then the design comes as part of it later. But CEPT has the privilege to design its own courses, and it deviates a lot from Council of Architectural Norms, but still accommodates it in a very smart way. But a lot of colleges don't have the privilege of their very creative curriculum. So the way the curriculum dictates is that, you know, you have to come up with design projects as a quantified manner. So automatically what happens is that rather than becoming a thematic, very grounded approach toward design and planning, it becomes like a very mere proposal sort of thing. Okay, you have to design this building. So the proposal itself, the briefs itself state the direct end product rather than asking about how can we engage with the situation there. So I think the engagement, especially with natural resources, is a very absent. That happens only in theory subjects or electives, but not in the design discussions. So that's where I think there is a huge disconnection. Few colleges or few curriculums are attempting to break that norm, but it has to come up in a very revolutionary manner. But regards this workshop, I mean, this kind of workshop, we need more of such things, because what it does is that it creates those subtler changes in both in curriculum and outside of it. For example, Saki Water is one of the key organizations that works on a ground level in Hyderabad around water and, you know, water supply to informal settlements and everything. They started post this workshop, they started their own creative inputs. They had taken some inputs from this workshop and started educating different communities about water and its implications and how it forms and everything. So the changes are more subtler. Also, a couple of faculty I know, they have taken inspired from this workshop. They have tried to integrate or talk about Hyderabad's relationship water either through in their design or somewhere wherever they get their opportunity. It is slow. Yes, that is little disappointing, but it is moving ahead. And as these kind of workshops grow much and more, I think we will be able to see changes in a healthier fashion.
Thank you, Shashank. I would like to move to Florence to understand. You have a vast career behind you. And just to understand, how is architecture planning education in France? And is it embedded, the understanding of water, is it embedded into the course, or professionals like I am? I learned through Netherlands, to England, and here and there, God knows where. Are the professionals already getting a very good idea of water systems in architecture planning, or is it like learning by practice? How is it in France? And probably I will now then go to Rina to find a some kind of comparison and what these kind of workshops can do. Florence, just to also add to your question here, when these professional workshops are done, I see another important point here is that the acceptance of the local authorities and the governments to listen to the work. I think that's a big advantage of having the Les Ateliers workshop. And I saw that in your presentation, you had the senior levels and the junior levels. You have both the levels of workshop at work. What's your take on water education in France and how these workshops can percolate further?
Hello again. First two questions about the water learning in France in the schools. Well, it's not really a central subject. We work about that more by experience. And I am an architect and an urban planner and tone designer and urban designer. I'm not landscape really, but I work on landscape and the big scale for many years. And I really work on the subject of the water and of the resource from more than 20 years now in my projects. But there is no really university about the water, in the we work with that now, but there is not a disciplinary exactly from that. There are people who work just on the water, on cleaning the water or how to keep the water, but the interactions between water, between urban settlements and everything, it's not, it's just by experience more than by teaching. And this is for professional way. And with the atelier, the water is one of the point we work on from many years. First, Sergi is near the River Seine, so we work on this thematic from many years. And we work with also many transversal people, as in my own work. But the main point is we, as you mentioned, we have junior format and senior format. And the first format was junior format. From 40 years it was junior format, and senior format is only from 20 years long. So junior format was always at the just beginning. It was about the suburban area of Paris. and the link between suburban area and Paris, and also the quality of life of this suburban area, and the quality of life because of the water also. And because the big axis from Paris to Cergy-Pontoise, but also the big axis is the spatial axis, but also the axis is the Seine, even if the Seine is just a meander, you know, but it's an axis. Each time, about every 3 years, we have a workshop about the water and about the Seine River. And so the next 3 workshops will be a triennial action about the Seine River, as I said, and with because it's so big, each year will be upstream, mainstream, and downstream. And it's really interesting, and we have a lot of experts from all over the world who care about the water in their projects and in their researches also, and well.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Rina. I come to you with little difficult question because you are having a very clear experience and understanding of both India and France, and when you have been also being part of this workshop as co-pilot for quite some time now. Um, work in a workshop mode with professionals. As I said, there is more government's acceptance, and it was good to hear from you that there is a government order, and I could relate that with the diagram from Maria's presentation also, that we presented along with it how the river, riverine system will be looked at differently, at least than projecting it. So bringing this kind of pedagogy to the classroom, how do you think it is possible, and what should be kind of improvisation if we have to bring it to bachelor's and master's level? Because I mean, I'm really struggling to teach water in India. I am learning water from all of you like this. Today, we are already going through 360th session of water conversation at WforW. So I know this is a very meager way to teach and learn water through what we are doing through Wednesdays for Water, but there has to be something fundamentally as a framework to teach water across, I think, not only for architecture and planning, but we can focus on architecture planning. Your experience of France and also your experience from South America, probably a little bit, because then Sebastian also comes in, and your experience from India. I mean, where do we stand with water crisis and no water education? I know it's a difficult question, but you can handle it.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, it's not a difficult question because it's something that, I do think about. I may answer it in a roundabout way if you may allow that. When I studied architecture, there was no question of learning anything about water. Like water. I think what I would really like to say is that water and nature, they support human beings, they support human mobility, they are really integral to our habitat. I think the problem is that we consider water, nature, landscape as separate from our buildings, right? So the habitat in which we live. And so
Very
architecture
well
is
put.
the way it was taught to me in my time in India. It was really it was about creativity. And I think in the 21st century, like now, creativity is resilience. It cannot be separate from our habitat anymore. So I think these people are starting to understand, definitely. I don't live in India anymore, so I don't know how much it has advanced in that sense, but I have seen more respect for the planning profession. When I was studying architecture, architects were supposed to be like I absolutely do not subscribe to this thought. So, but I'm just telling you what I had heard, that the architects were the creative ones, and then the planners were the ones who couldn't become the architects, which is absolutely ridiculous because like it's just based on nothing. And so it's like this bubble that the architects like to live in. My personal experience has been, even in France, I would say that water, and for that matter, even transport, these are very male dominated, siloed sectors, They are
Whereas
very
important
much
point.
heavily engineering kind of sectors where there is no need for that, because both mobility and water are very much close to how people how communities live together. And so I would say, you ask me how do we get that into the classroom, I'm not sure about that, but the way forward I think is more workshops like this, is more multidisciplinary environments, because that's when you challenge the silo, right? And when you bring together, whenever you bring together diverse voices, diverse perspectives, these are usually like kept apart, because like I said, like water is like considered infrastructure engineering. So I think we just have to stop seeing it as infrastructure and see it as resource, or not even resource, like you had one, like you had said, like what you believe in, water for water's sake, nature for nature's sake. Maybe just to conclude, the reason I have taken an interest in this is because I went away from architecture then. I went into landscape and immersed myself in landscape and in water management firms, which believed in low impact urban design and water sensitive urban planning. I must say that's not so typical. So I would not say
Yes.
that, I mean, I don't know how Florence, I think Florence would agree that not everybody knows how to, like design cities respecting water, it's only now starting to be very, I must say, very trendy. There's also a lot of greenwashing around it. But more and more, at least, there's definitely more. So I would say, like the way forward, I think the whole thing of like university, even though we live in a different world today, we're not necessarily learning in the classroom anyway. So
Yes.
I wouldn't worry so much about that, but I would have more
Okay.
opportunities like
Wonderful. Yeah, I think you put it very nicely. And also, yes, the classroom is not the end of education. In fact, most of the education is now happening outside. But still, it's just the urge that I often get in my head, that if I am not educated as formal educated, do I still need to consider myself a water practitioner? Or if I'm learning by doing, it is like, also engaging in some mistakes, which has a huge social ecological impact. So that's my worry. But you in your presentation also, it came out very clear how all the three teams were actually so much inclined to talk about livability, talk about ecology, bringing people close to water. This is some kind of common pattern which you and Florence must have really seen from all the presentations, whether we have educated from water or not, but this human sense, or I will say the cognitive science inside us, anyway calls us to see water differently than the whole engineered way. And probably I will have you in another session to talk about the masculinity of water, because that's also true, that most of the water decisions in not only local authorities and also water departments are many a times masculine, than looking at the feminine touch of it. And it's a good time to now invite Sebastian, because we move on to another country and find out what is being taught in architecture planning schools in Argentina, and how do you learn about water? I'm really curious, because when I traveled to Argentina, Sebastian, I was not knowing you. So I just traveled as a tourist. But I will be very keen to know where does the water discourse sit? It sits in Argentina among the planners and architects. And how do you
Well,
maneuver through it in your practice?
yeah, let me begin saying that we are part of a developing country similar to India. Many Latin American countries have different levels of problems in poverty, pollution, economy, and also planning. So, a couple of days ago was the World Biodiversity or Ecology Day, and I live in a very small town in the north of Argentina, and all primary schools celebrated the Ecology or Biodiversity Day, putting in the streets of the school, they put out their
Wow.
science projects around ecology. So it's not a matter of high level education, but also in primary school and secondary school, there's a, in the last decades and last generations, they are working on that. So when and also, it's like the citizenship compromise on ecology. It's not a matter only of water, it's a matter of ecology. Green and blue infrastructures, and also gray infrastructures, city infrastructures. So in terms of higher education in architecture and planning, I'm teacher in different universities around the country. So it's not, a, 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 a whole comprehensive line of approach, but through my experience in the last 2 decades, during the architecture and urban courses, students are going through these ecology matters. I mean, it depends, in architecture and in urban studies, it depends of your design. This is the core of the career, the design workshop. So all the design workshops are working on that nowadays. It's part of the programs, but also little by little is part of our behavior as citizens in the compromise of ecology.
Interesting. And I must also share that even in India, the architecture planning education is changing to look at water differently. But then when I look at what's happening on ground, it gives me nightmares, because India has approved already more than 100 riverfronts the way Ahmedabad riverfront is. So I'm just trying to understand, where is the education heading, where are the water workshops heading, and where are the government proposals heading. But quickly we go to our last question to Maria, a very similar question. But before that, I want to share this book that you gave to me. And thank you so much for sharing this book. But I would also like to invite you for Friday Water Arts someday to discuss some kind of representation. So Maria, you heard your co-speakers today here, and I'm curious to understand, how is it in Spain that you learn about water by practice, or there is something? By the way, in school in India also, a lot of environment day events and a lot of World Water Day events happen. Somewhere in undergraduate, postgraduate, we have to leave it aside, and in practice they come back in, and when we learn by doing. And I have seen your beautiful videos on the street doing little activism and all. How is it that you practice, or your colleagues probably practice, alternate ways of water education in Spain?
Well, I think it's very similar as what Sebastian was telling. In fact, like in the architecture schools, some years ago, we didn't learn much, except if we were studying landscape. And in Spain, there wasn't even like a degree on landscape. You had to do some masters and go to Barcelona. But in France, there was like some more awareness of that kind of thing. Maybe it's because in Spain we don't have so much water, at least on the southern half. But it's true that I didn't learn in school anything about water, and I learned it myself through professional practice. But I think it has changed. In the last years, we have been seeing like some more awareness and some more and different proposals around taking into account water, ecology, this separation that Rina was mentioning, no, like this separation that we make between culture and nature, which is not real. No, we are a part of it. And I think we are kind of being more aware of that an architect, there are many architects that only do like some refurbishments of buildings and so on, but some architects that are a bit more curious and a bit more strategic and a bit more into urban realm are working with that. And it's something that is being talked a lot right now in Madrid, like in the cultural and architectural like circles of people. And regarding that book, Madrid Marino, in fact, we made it because Madrid is a city of water, and there was a huge disconnection with our water history, with our many of the water stories and legends. And, we have a lot of streets that carry the name of some streams and people don't know about them. So I worked with this research, a friend of mine called Malu. She did this research on different old paintings, documents. She interviewed some neighbors that remembered the streams and how they used to swim in them and how they used to go to carry water from the public fountains and so on. And so I illustrated the book, and we like gathered all these like popular stories, and also we did a plan of the disappeared streams of the city, that many of them ran along what are now the streets of the city. And afterwards, with that book, I have made many workshops with children, making them to draw some of their water memories, some of their water desires for their neighborhoods. Also, the intervention you mentioned, we went around like drawing with chalk in the streets, the place where the stream used to flow, and like invoking the idea and the presence of that water that used to flow there and that named the street after it, and that isn't there anymore, and maybe it should be like still alive in our memories, because we are forgetting everything so quickly that it is important to also like keep alive the memory of water in order to be able to imagine a future in which water is also present, no, in our cities.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. As I had already mentioned to all of you that the session is going to be longer to 90 minutes. Before I say you goodbye, I would also like to announce our forthcoming sessions, because next week, actually, Wednesdays for Water is live at UMass Amherst at in USA, where the team W4W joins the IASC conference led by Elinor Ostrom team, where we present a paper on water anxiety, and I am chairing 2 sessions on water conversations hosted by W4W. So next week, no online sessions, it's only live in person. And that also includes some walks and talks around UMass and New York, where we bring friends to talk about water. Please know that W4W is about V for Water, where we strongly believe that water conversations are crucial for water conservation, and consider it as a first step towards doing anything about water. End of this month, we have a continuation of Friday Water Arts of Goa Water Stories Part 4. That's on June 27th at 5 p.m. IST, and the more information will be there on www.w4w.in. And we are constantly looking for women water endeavors to talk about their life journey in our Monday Munching Musing with Women for Water. We don't have any session of that in June, hopefully in July. But before I close, and because we're talking about water education, I would like to share this screen from one of my lake walks, just happened 2 days ago to celebrate the World Environment Day. And this is what students can make out of it. And it was really very interesting for us to see how younger generation makes sense out of these water conversations. For me, it was a concern to go to the lake with 20 odd people, but it was also, I was elated by the end of the day as the students like this one work, they come up with some understanding. And that's the purpose, I think, unless and until we start talking about this important subject, we will still keep it as a side subject. And as Rina, Florence, and all of you have had a concern that it is not an infrastructure. It is a being. It has life. It is nature. It is something more. Let's continue talking about water. And with this, I would like to thank Florence Bunuj, Rina Mahajan, Sebastian Miguel, Maria Mendez, Shashank IVS for this wonderful session. And thanks for taking out time. I know it's difficult with 4 time zones, but we made it. Thanks a lot, all of you. Please take care and do keep joining our sessions. We will share more information on the website as well as in our messages. Thanks a lot. Take care and see you soon. And it's a very good reconnect with the family.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Nancy.
Bye-bye. Bye. Take care.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Bye.